Awards, live Sunday, March 10th at a new time on ABC.
And with that being said, we're going to transition and do our final predictions for the 96th Academy Awards, which are going down this Sunday, March 10th. The night is finally almost here, the biggest night in Hollywood. We've been waiting for it. We've been talking about it. We've been speculating and hyping, and we talked about the nominations, and now with just 5 days left until the big show, we're here to give our final predictions for the 5th year in a row. This is the 5th time that we've done this, where we come and we predict the Oscars and do this right before the big show. So this
invite
should be
us to the Oscars, please.
literally, like, have us on the carpet. Put me next to fucking Austin Butler so I can talk to him about Doom Part 2.
High key.
But yeah, this is going to be fun, as we always do. Now, I must always say this, as I do every single year, that these picks don't always represent our favorite movies per se. This is a game to try to pick and most accurately predict the most winners. And so just because we predict something or we pick something, that doesn't necessarily reflect our own personal favorites, our own personal taste. And I'm sure we'll have that conversation many times throughout each category. But I must always caveat the conversation that just because we pick something, that doesn't mean that that's like my number one ranked thing. That was my favorite thing that I saw or watched or performance or whatever the case may be. This is a game to try to predict the most winners of the night. And so that's what we're going to do. And so with that being said, let's get into it. Before we really dive in, I mean, how are you feeling just about the Oscars? I mean, we've been able to sit on the nominations. We've seen a couple of the results come in from other award shows, the BAFTAs, the SAG Awards, Critics' Choice, Golden Globes. How are you feeling walking into the big night this coming Sunday? Are you excited for the award show, especially compared to previous years? How are you just, what's your overall outlook just, looking at the Academy Awards this year?
Man, I'm excited. We've talked about this is really some of the best nominees, the nominee pool that we've had in a very long time. Even though, things are shaping up, I think, to be more predictable. I think it was in the year before, we were like, we don't know where some of this stuff is going to go. This year is shaping up, I think, to be more predictable, but I'm still very excited for that. I think there's a lot to celebrate this year, a lot of good films and a lot of good performances and some history to be made if some of these predictions go correctly, man. But some of these movies, I'm just ready for a night of celebration. I'm looking for the in-betweens. I'm looking for what speeches are going to be going down, what videos they have for us in between, what announcements may come out of the Academy Awards, all kind of things. I'm looking for the nuances in the a lot of that middle ground. Not necessarily always who wins what award, but I'm pretty excited for it, man. I'm excited for the celebration of film of 2023 because man, we went to the movies a lot. And the Oscars always feels like Desmond and Jordan's, I don't know, even though it's not the end of the year, this is like the end of the cinematic year. You know what I mean? This is really where we say, okay, we did it this year. After the Academy Awards, it's time for a new year and it's time for some new movies. So yeah, man, I'm excited to close the chapter of 2023.
Yeah, first and foremost, excited for, the movies being acknowledged, all the filmmakers and actors being acknowledged. 2023, as I've said before on the show, was a really, really strong year. I think the strongest cinematic year that we've had since 2019, pre-COVID. A lot of really interesting films, a lot of legendary filmmakers who came back and delivered films that were either good or even, dare I say, great in a lot of respects. Some competitive things that we saw go down with box office results and popularity, but also critical darlings, films that felt like achievements, films that felt like they had something to say. Just a widespread, diverse array of really, really incredible stories by and large. And I think that these nominations this year, once again, are reflecting the ever-changing voting body and how things are just rapidly changing since we had those dark Oscar so white days, about 9 or 10 years ago, where it's like now, oh no, like a lot of history is being made or could be made. Those opportunities, I think, are more present now than we've really ever seen before. And that's exciting. And I think the show itself, it's always one of my favorite nights of the year to watch the show. I'm always so curious at how things go down because we've seen in the past, 7 or 8 years that the Academy Awards can still shock us. Some things that are unplanned and we cannot anticipate or expect can still happen and create tons and tons of conversation, as we saw just 2 years ago with the slap her around the world, 2017 with the fucking envelope fiasco. I mean, stuff can still go down at the Oscars. It ain't always,
sure.
A walk in the park. This can still be a shocking night of live television. So I'm always curious to see how the live broadcast goes down. And of course, Jimmy Kimmel back to host. He's obviously proven, very much a reliable person to come in and keep the ship in the right direction. And it's also interesting this year because it's going to have an earlier start time. They're going to start at 7 p.m. Eastern as opposed to 8 p.m. Eastern. I think likely to just account for the time overages, the fact that this is typically a 3.5 hour broadcast. So they're looking to end a little bit earlier, perhaps, maybe at about the 10:30 Eastern hour. But also a lot of the people in Hollywood, they're going to have to get ready even earlier now. They're going to have to arrive even earlier than they typically have to. So should be an interesting night to see how things play out. But let's go ahead and dive in, man. Let's go through all 23 categories and give our final predictions. We're going to work our way up. We're going to start with a lot of the below the line stuff and then sort of round out our conversation with many of the acting categories. And then, of course, the big award at the end of the night, Best Picture. I think coming into this Academy Awards, you kind of hinted at it. A lot of things are somewhat predictable. The behemoth of Oppenheimer is taking up a lot of space in the room. And so I don't think the question, by the time we get to Best Picture is if Oppenheimer's going to win. That's probably more than likely going to win. But the big question is how many awards can Oppenheimer win? It's nominated for 13, the most of any film this year, and it's represented in many of these categories. But as we get into it, let's start with Best Visual Effects. This award is represented by some really strong films that came out this past year, especially if on the VFX front. We have The Creator, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Napoleon. Now to just, sort of introduce it here, I think, all these films, tremendous visual effects work, part of them. It feels like to me, the front runners are The Creator and Godzilla -1.
Yep.
It feels like those two are really in the conversation, who are, going to be the films that are, sort of battling out and kind of the closest to each other. I know The Creator recently at one of the major VFX awards kind of swept and won many of the major awards. It won like 5 out of the 7 or 8 that it was nominated for. So had a tremendous showing. Of course, Godzilla -1 has a really, really strong narrative behind it. One of the most critically acclaimed films last year, a huge surprise hit. And we know with the Academy, you often need a narrative these days to have a lot of support behind you. You have to have a story to get people to vote for you. So, yeah, man, what are you feeling? How are you feeling with Best Visual Effects? If you have to pick one, who's going to be your prediction for this award?
Man, I first want to say The Creator is crazy. Like I've been, though the story is not my favorite, I do really like that movie. Technically, when I'm finding out the camera it was shot on a Sony FX3, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it, I'm like, excuse me, it's shot with I can go rent that camera right now. You know what I'm saying? Like it's accessible. I think that's the story of The Creator. I think is like budget, what they did it with, and to be honest, it's pretty impressive, and I think it should be acknowledged for that. But man, Godzilla -1, dog. I have to go with Godzilla here. I think if you watch the movie, there are certain ways Godzilla has to be conveyed in these Godzilla films for it to make sense, for it to be believable, for it to not be cheesy, for it to not be really silly looking. Because let's be honest, though, there's a lot of Godzilla movies I like. There's some silly Godzilla movies in there, and some of it is just by how crazy it looks or how silly it really does look. But this one, Godzilla -1, it subverted a lot of expectations from people and came out of came out of nowhere a little bit. So I'm going with Godzilla -1. I think it has the story. I think it has the impressiveness of Godzilla in it. And you literally can't make this movie without a big CGI monster. So I'm going with Godzilla -1.
Yeah, what's interesting about this category, and we briefly talked about this when the short list came out. Oppenheimer was not nominated here, not even considered on the short list, which I think is it's baffling. I really still don't understand that. And if it were here, I dare say that would likely still be the favorite, just considering how much power is behind that movie. But I think you have 3 franchise picks here that are represented when you look at Mission Impossible and Guardians and technically Godzilla. And then you have these original creations with like The Creator, and then Napoleon is, of course, has this historical bent. But considering the 2 front runners, I'm also going with Godzilla -1. That's where my heart is. I went back and forth between that and The Creator, and The Creator does have a lot of juice behind it, just considering, Gareth Edwards coming in and doing a lot with a little. But Godzilla -1, again, a surprise hit, something that showcases what international VFX companies can do, and what they can utilize when they have little resources, but they have to make something as believable as a big budget Hollywood movie, and they did it in spades. I mean, Godzilla minus one looks better than some of the Hollywood movies that we get today, and I think we've seen a lot of the celebration. We saw how happy they were when they got nominated. That video that went viral on Twitter with the whole crew
Yeah.
reacting,
Mm-hmm.
that was a
Love it.
moment. So I think a lot of favorites, or a lot of people are going to have Godzilla minus one as their underdog favorite, but it's going to emerge and be the first Godzilla film, if I'm not mistaken, to ever win an Academy Award, which that
That's a
in
story.
of itself is wonderful. So I would love to see that happen. So I'm going to go also with Godzilla minus one. Let's move on to best sound. So in this category, we once again have the creator. We have Maestro, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. This is also a bit of a competitive category. I think when you look at these films, all really really successful films in the division of sound, but once again, I think two front runners emerge. I would say The Zone of Interest and Oppenheimer are kind of at the front of the pack in this particular category. I'll go ahead and just give my first pick here in this category. I think after very much, some strong deliberation, really thinking about this, and this is hard because I really don't feel sure, I'm going to go with Oppenheimer. I think that Oppenheimer is going to kind of steamroll over a lot of these categories, and this is the one that it could still potentially lose. The Zone of Interest and what they do with sound in that movie, quite incredible, quite spectacular. It's really haunting. But if I had to pick one, I'm gonna go with Oppenheimer, just because, again, I think the momentum is there. I think the whole narrative around how the film came to be, and just the Trinity test sequence alone, that's enough. That was a memorable moment for people to witness and see, like, something that they've never seen before. So that's gonna be my pick.
Yeah, I think I have to go with Oppenheimer as well, man. And again, sometimes I'm like, man, kind of like a video be showed of some of the other nominees, like why the sound was good. You know what I mean? Because the Zone of Interest was doing some very interesting things by way of sound design, man. But Oppenheimer, they have some heavy lifting to do on the sound side of making some of those sequences believable. It's also a very dialogue heavy movie, and can you hear everything that's being said in some of these certain situations? Does it come through clear? Does it, all of that stuff can be important as well, man. And I think the mix of things in Oppenheimer, I think it's going to win. I really do, man. And so yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, it's more flashy too, if we're being honest. Like, the sound is
Yeah.
much more
Mhm.
apparent. The Zone of Interest is much more subtle in its use of sound. But one of my favorite sequences in Oppenheimer is that pep rally after they drop the bombs on Hiroshima, and you hear the stomping, in the gymnasium, and you see J. Robert Oppenheimer coming through the crowd, and that just thunderous sound, and how emotional that moment was. But then to go to complete absolute silence to sort of replicate
Mhm.
the experience of a bomb drop. I mean, it's crazy what they do in that sequence alone. Forget the Trinity test sequence, which in and of itself is amazing. I'm thinking about that. So I think
Right.
there's a lot behind Oppenheimer. Let's move on to best film editing. Best film editing is also an interesting one, because we've seen in recent years that the winner of this category typically kind of indicates, who might walk away with Best Picture, or at least some of the other major awards later on in the evening. But in this category, we have Anatomy of the Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. So what are you gonna pick here for best film editing?
Yeah, man, it's one of those. I have to go with Oppenheimer. And of course not just because of the favorite. I really think this movie has like some of the best editing I've ever seen when it comes to stitching together the psyche of Oppenheimer. That's like just one of the coolest things ever. But again, to make it believable and fit with the narrative, and then the Trinity sequence, and then there's just so much in it, man. Also the use of black and white. It's just there's so many, I think, reasons to give this movie best editing, and so I'm gonna have to go with Oppenheimer for sure.
Yeah, same pick here. I think it's Oppenheimer. It's a massive undertaking to pull together. All the weaves and all the threads in that movie. And how they conveyed
Hmm.
that story and made it coherent. So I think that's just like the clear winner. It's incredible film editing across the board, as these other films are, but that one really stands out. Best production design: Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. All really, really incredible achievements when you think about
Fire.
production design. I mean, they're all doing things so drastically different. Barbie literally creates its own world. I mean, we've never seen
Yeah.
Barbie land immersed and brought to life in that way. Killers of the Flower Moon, obviously a period piece set in the 1930s. Napoleon, this grand historical epic. Oppenheimer, we just talked a lot about. They have to build Los Alamos, a version of Los Alamos in New Mexico. That's a large part of the film. Poor Things is doing some absolutely ridiculous things from a production design standpoint, taking you to different worlds and the vivid imagination there. So this is a tough one. This is a really tough one. I think if I have to pick, it's really hard because it comes down to me to Poor Things and Barbie. I'm gonna go with
Mm-hmm.
Barbie though. I'm gonna go with Barbie because I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's the best of these five personally, but when you think about how much that means to the movie, how much Barbie Land and that world means to the film itself, and how much I think that impressed audiences around the world when they saw the film. And a lot of it was practical as well. You know, they built real stages. They didn't use a lot of
Mm-hmm.
VFX for Barbie Land. That stuff in particular was super impressive. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick Barbie on this one.
I'm going Barbie as well, but I actually think Barbie might be the best, bro. Because pretty much a lot of things you just said, those practical sets, but they take us into the world of I mean, there's dream houses and cars, and there's just so much that's a part of Barbie. I really like Poor Things too, to be honest.
That's my favorite personally.
I
It's
think the production design is the most beautiful and some of the most put together. But I think some bro, the way just the way Barbie had to be conveyed and to take you into that world of Barbie, like production design, that movie doesn't happen. Like, what are we watching? Kind of type thing. So I think I'm gonna go with Barbie.
for sure. Let's move on and do best original score. So in this category, we have American Fiction, Indiana Jones, and the Dial of Destiny, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I Is it anybody but Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer? You know,
No, it's nobody
I
else.
think it's a
It's
shoe.
nobody
It's a
else.
shoe
Yeah,
in that he's gonna win.
yeah,
That'll be his second
yeah.
Oscar. You know, if he walks away with the
Woo.
trophy.
Quick.
Very quick. He just won recently for Black Panther, like a few years ago, and he once again delivered one of the most memorable scores of the 21st century. I vividly remember after Oppenheimer came out, everybody was using the score from Oppenheimer to pair it alongside videos and compilations and all of that stuff. I mean, that one track that plays at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the movie, it just stands out. It's truly a genius. I think a genius piece of music that he crafted there in particular. So it just
No, he
feels
killed
clear.
it.
He created a moment, and so I think that's going to walk away with it. So I would assume that's your pick as well for best original score.
For sure. Like, it's not even, to be honest, it's not even close. I think the other thing that I know I might have seen other people bring up was Killers of the Flower Moon. As another thought and idea there, because there was some important music in that film as well. But Ludwig Göransson, bro, this dude, I'm telling you, he is the next generation of great. Like, I mean, eventually we'll be talking about him with the John Williams and the Hans Zimmer and all these other people. But he's doing it right now. He's the one. And Oppenheimer is like another example of like, nah, Ludwig Göransson is him right now. Like, if you want the best score, go pick this dude up. Like, he's ready to work. And so yeah, I think it's definitely Oppenheimer.
Yeah, and also to shout out John Williams, who this year received his 54th nomination at the Academy Awards, which is like the most all time. It's ridiculous how many times he's
Man,
been nominated. That just
when
goes to show how many iconic scores he's crafted over the years.
we got to get this dude. It's time. How old is John Williams, bro?
He's like 90.
We've
I
given
think.
him a lifetime achievement, right? We've done that, right?
Probably somewhere, I would assume he has.
Okay.
He has that. I don't know from which particular organization, but I would have to assume he has something of that nature because he needs it.
He has to. If the Oscars hasn't done it yet, I think this is a good time. Like, this is a good year. My boy is 92. Go ahead and celebrate him. Give him a lifetime achievement. Like, it's like that. So yeah.
Absolutely. Let's move on. Best original song. Here we have "The Fire Inside" from Flamin' Hot. "I'm Just Ken" from Barbie. "It Never Went Away" from American Symphony. Wazazi. If I'm certainly mispronouncing that, but that's from Killers of the Flower Moon. And "What Was I Made For" from Barbie. Before we pick here, what's interesting is that all 5 songs are going to be performed on Sunday. They have confirmed that everybody will be performing their songs from this respective category. I don't know how I personally feel about that. I know a lot of people were calling
Mm-hmm.
for Ryan Gosling to perform I'm Just Ken. I don't know if that's the best thing to be doing. I feel like that might be somewhat ill-advised. Like, the movie's right there, y'all. Just go watch the movie. I don't know if we need this live rendition of this
Right.
song. But Barbie represented twice here. This is also, I believe, the only nomination from American Symphony, to which, a lot of people thought that it was snubbed from the best documentary category. But John Baptiste, obviously a very renowned musician in his own right. So overall, what are you feeling? What would you pick from this category as your winner?
Yeah, I think quite plainly what was I made for is literally the best song. Like if you listen to the lyrics, how Billie Eilish and Phineas wrote it, it's I think it's just literally the best song, regardless of like popularity or what we've seen in other awards. I think it's the best song. So I'm going with what was I made for, man.
I'm picking that as well, but can I be honest? I'm not a fan of that song. I
Really?
don't really like it. I really don't. I don't know. I'm not the slow, really drawn back Billie Eilish. Not really my
Mm-hmm.
vibe. I reckon it's good. It's certainly good. I'm not taking that away from her or from the final product. I'm just not a personal fan of it. So when this comes on and they perform it, I will have my head down on the computer.
turn the TV
I'll just be
down.
doing something different. Yeah, I'm just gonna work on something else for a few quick minutes. But they're certainly gonna win that one. I think she's also gonna walk away with her
Mm-hmm.
second Oscar in a few short years. She won a couple of years
Wow,
ago for No Time to Die for James Bond.
I
So
forgot about
yeah,
that.
she will be a 2-time Oscar winner after this is all said and done, and she can walk away with that trophy at a very,
She's
very young age.
22.
Yeah, I mean, what are you doing at 22? That's the question. Like, what
Goodness.
are any of us doing at 22? Like, Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
That woman is talented. Like I said, despite my personal feelings, I will never take anything. She is absolutely talented and really crafting an incredible career for herself. Let's move on. Best makeup and hairstyling. In this category, we have Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. Interesting films here. Society of the Snow. This is one of the only nominations that it has, which is a bit surprising, but
Sad.
a lot of great films here. Any favorites? What's your prediction out of this category for best makeup and hairstyling?
So, my favorite. I have to talk about my favorite. I really want this to be Poor Things. I really do. I think Poor Things hair and makeup is crazy. I think they really killed it. But I have a feeling it is going to go to Maestro. That's my final prediction. Which they also really killed it. Of course, there was a lot of talks around Bradley Cooper and the nose that he that he took on in order to portray the character. But I I understand as well though. Hair and makeup in Maestro was really good. Like outside of Bradley Cooper, with Carrie Mulligan's makeup was fire. Like I think they really did kill it on that front as well. I just like Poor Things a little bit more in terms of hair and makeup because it also was very important to the story they were telling as well. But yeah, Maestro is my final prediction, I think.
Yeah, no, totally fair. And I pretty much agree on all the points. I'm also picking Maestro. It does feel like the favorite. And I will say, the first time I saw Maestro and I sat there and looked at the makeup. There's a sequence where Bradley Cooper is aged up.
So good.
I think it might be the best prosthetics I've ever seen in terms of aging somebody up, making them look a lot older than they are. I don't know if I've ever seen it done as well as what they did in Maestro. It might be the best I've ever seen. So that in and of itself, and they do a lot of other things too, but really, really incredible. So I'm picking Maestro as well. Let's move on to best costume design. Here we have Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I think another, considerably competitive race here. The costumes really in all of these films are very, very integral to the stories that they're telling. Obviously, Barbie, we've talked about Killers of the Flower Moon, and Napoleon and Oppenheimer, all period pieces representing different points in time. But, Barbie and Poor Things are creating worlds to an extent, kind of creating new realities. And so it's competitive, but who would you pick out of the category as your favorite?
This one is slightly harder for me. Cause you got Barbie and then you got Weirder Barbie. You know what I'm saying? Poor Things is just Weirder Barbie. But like
that double feature is going to be, I can't wait to watch these two back to back.
I cannot wait to watch it back to back. Poor Things, you need to be on Blu-ray like right now.
Hulu March 7th, like in a couple days, I think.
Hulu March 7th. Yeah. That's true. It's right around the corner. Even though, again, man, it's something about Poor Things I think the Academy likes and will like. but I still think they're going to pick Barbie. And part of it is the, I don't know if backlash is the word, but part of it is the whole Greta Gerwig didn't get didn't get the director nomination.
Right.
So part of me feels like they're going to go ahead and give it to some of those other departments that they feel, might also, deserve those awards to kind of, I don't know if you can ever quote unquote make up for it, but to make it feel better that Barbie won some stuff for the night. And I think they'll go with Barbie here for best costume design. Which I also love their costumes. I ain't gonna lie to you. I remember first seeing the skating on the beach costume, the picture we got very early. I was like, oh yeah, no, this movie's finna be fire. And so yeah, I think it's also very deserving as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go Barbie here.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, they were campaigning for costumes a year before the movie came out. Like, they were leaking pictures, and it's like, oh well, shit, we already know they're going to be in the conversation. I'm picking Barbie as well. This it's a hard choice. Like, I didn't easily fall on Barbie. I do think it's once again sort of a two film race here between Barbie and Poor Things. There's a lot of similarities, but some extreme distinctive differences between those movies in the best ways possible. I think it's a slim race. Like, I don't think, if either one wins, it's going to be decisive.
Yeah.
I think that these are going to be very close races between best costume design and best production design. But I agree that it feels like Barbie's going to win a lot of these categories since it's not going to be reflected in best picture. It's now reflected in Greta Gerwig. Well, it's in best picture, but it's not going to win. And Greta Gerwig, she did not get nominated. It feels kind of similar to the Black Panther effect, where we saw costumes and production design and all these things and score. I think it won a lot of those awards, but it did not win Best Picture. Ryan Coogler was not nominated for Best Director. Feels like a similar situation here, so I'm also picking Barbie in this category. Moving on, Best Cinematography. We have El Conde, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Oppenheimer. I think it's Oppenheimer. I mean, I don't have much to say. All great movies and all great cinematography, especially Poor Things. Wow. Some gorgeous cinematography there. Even Killers of the Flower Moon, I think it's a stunning film on a visual standpoint. But I think Oppenheimer, we're just in a different sort of stratosphere again, where I think that plays so much into the story of the movie. The black and white cinematography in that film. Some gorgeous black and white sequences, especially in IMAX. If you've not seen it in 70 millimeter in IMAX, those sequences with Robert Downey Jr. in the courthouse and at the dinner and all of that stuff in black and white is just so beautiful. So I think it's going to walk away with the debut in this category.
Yeah, random thought. I'm sorry, Dune Part 2 is taking this next year. That boy Greg Fraser in the black and white on.
Man, that Getty Prime stuff. When we first see Austin Butler in that movie, it's ridiculous.
Getty Prime stuff, y'all.
It's ridiculous. Because to be honest, when I was watching the movie, I was loving it, but I was like, damn, we're spending a lot of time on Arrakis. Like, we've not left Arrakis at all. But then when we finally go to Getty Prime and you see the black sun and Jesus Christ, it's which, by the way, if Dune Part 2 had come out in 2023, what would we be talking about here? Like, what would that cover? Like,
Oppenheimer versus Dune.
Like,
no more. It wouldn't be Barbenheimer. It'd be Dunenheimer.
Sounds like a Russian film. I don't even know. I don't even know if we could have. That might have been an overload. I don't know if we could have handled that. Like, this would be like a completely different conversation this year. Like, it's almost better that it didn't happen, to be honest with you, because I would hate to be picking between those two. Like, I know Dune Part 2 is going to get all the awards next year. Like, it's going to have its moment once again. But to put it up against Oppenheimer would have been a shame. I would have been really sad to see that.
But yeah, this dude Greg Fraser shot infrared and made it so the sunlight killed the colors versus bringing out color. It is so nuts to shoot it like that, but to be able to get that look in black and white in camera, that wasn't like a ton of like editing post. That was like, no, we got a lot of that in camera.
It's a practical way
I'm
to
sorry.
do it. Yeah.
That is so nuts, y'all. But yeah, next year, just know it's not losing. Dune isn't losing cinematography next year. But it has to be Oppenheimer here. Outside of all the things that we know that is Oppenheimer, just thinking about what cinematography, how important it is to the movie, and I think it's like probably the most important out of all these movies. Even though it's very dialogue driven and they talk a lot, man, I can't imagine Oppenheimer with bad cinematography. Like, I can't. it like doesn't make any sense to me. And one other thing while we're talking about cinematography, this is far off the rails. One of the things I don't like about the movie Nyad is that it could have been shot better. Okay, I'm done. I just wanted to say that.
Fair enough. But yeah, no. Hoyt van Hoytema in Oppenheimer was just
Killed it.
again. He's one of the best in the world. He's the best.
Yes.
He's the best at IMAX and using IMAX cameras. Like there's nobody in the industry better than him. And so Chris Nolan once again working with him and bringing him on. I mean that man's gonna win an Oscar. Let's move on. Best documentary short film. So we're getting into a lot of the short categories. Here we have the ABCs of book banning, The Barber of Little Rock, Island in Between, The Last Repair Shop, and Nine and WIPO. I've seen I think 4 of these, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are either streaming or on YouTube. Nine and WIPO is on Disney Plus, really cute. Last Repair Shop, ABC's of book banning, those are on YouTube. So if people are interested, they can check those out. A lot of these are typically like anywhere between like 15 minutes and 30 minutes, not long watches at all. But yeah, what would you pick out of this category as your prediction? Best documentary short film?
Man, and so usually I think I've only seen 3 of these: Last Repair Shop, Nine WIPO, maybe ABC's a book bending. But even the ones I've watched, I think Last Repair Shop has it, bro. It's so well crafted, and it's like it tugs at your heartstrings, which I think is important at the Academy Awards. Is something that can make you feel something, and I think it's perfect for what the Academy looks for in something in this category. So I'm gonna go with The Last Repair Shop.
That's a good pick. I do think that it's pretty much between 2 in this race, Last Repair Shop and the ABCs of book banning. I feel like the 2 favorites. I'm actually picking the ABCs of book banning. That's going to be my pick in this category. That was a really interesting one and one that certainly can
It was good.
can arise. It can create a lot of feelings in you. It can make you very frustrated at just like the outcome of what the country is doing to certain books and certain texts across the country in certain schools.
Pisses you off.
Yeah, it's definitely one that stirs up a lot of emotion. So I think that one feels accessible. Both of them feel really accessible, but that one feels like a very, very prominent issue that might get a lot of attention. So I'm going to go with the ABC's of book banning. Let's move on to best live action short film. Here we have The After, Invincible, Night of Fortune, Red, White, and Blue, and The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. So also some interesting films in this category. I've seen quite a few of these. I think maybe 4 out of the 5 here, which by the way, Red, White, and Blue will piss you off, and it has one of the craziest twists that I've seen in a short film in a long time. And conceivably could have a conversation and a narrative around it, because it does deal with I'll just say it deals with like abortion and pro-life, pro-choice, certain elements and issues here. But if I'm picking, I think The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar is going to win. That's the Wes Anderson short that he did this past fall on Netflix. I think that this is probably the case of the most notable name in the category is just going to win, and it'll be Wes Anderson's first Oscar if he can walk away with a W here.
Crazy.
It's also it's a wonderfully crafted little short film too. I enjoyed it. It's the longest of like 4 short films he did that dropped this past fall, all Roald Dahl sort of adaptations that he translated, and they were all pretty good. But I think he's going to walk away with a W in this one.
Yeah, I'm actually completely blind in this category. I have not seen not a one of these live action shorts. But for all the reasons you said, just knowing Wes Anderson is behind The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, he doesn't have one yet. Like and it's really weird. Wes Anderson is one of the biggest names, director names in Hollywood, and he's constantly and continuously working, and he doesn't have one yet. And I think this is an easy moment for them to be like, "Here you go, Wes Anderson. This is your like quote unquote makeup call. Sorry you don't have one yet. Here it is." So I'm gonna go with The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar as well.
Certainly. Moving on to Best Animated Short Film. In this category, we have Letter to a Pig, 95 Senses, Our Uniform, Pachydermy. I think that's how you pronounce it. I might be wrong in that. I'm probably wrong in that. And the last one, War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko. If you don't know, that's John Lennon and his widow, Yoko Ono. What will be your pick in this category? Who are you picking to walk away with the win for Best Animated Short Film?
Man, so I think it's between Letter to a Pig and War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko. I think those are like the 2 front runners. But I am going to go with I think it's actually hard. I think this is very. I think low key this is like one of those random ones that it's like going to be competitive. That like everybody's going to be predicting crazy. I'm gonna go with Letter to a Pig, bro. I'm just gonna go with Letter to a Pig. It's really good. In it's like again, it's another one that's very beautifully crafted. It is dealing with the Holocaust. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I think I think Academy will like that one.
Yeah, I think it has probably the best animation of the bunch. In
I
all
agree.
honesty,
Yeah, I agree.
I really like 95 Senses too. But I
Hmm.
think Letter to a Pig has some really gorgeous animation. And it is dealing with a really important issue. But I'm actually gonna pick War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Oko.
It's a good pick.
I think I'm once again just sort of leaning towards this is the one that probably has the most notoriety and the most familiarity amongst Academy voters. Like everybody knows John Lennon and Yoko Ono. They're extremely famous and well known, of course. And so,
Yeah.
you know, when we're talking about Academy voters, and you know, we're kind of probably in the area of the ballot where people start just kind of checking boxes. I think they don't necessarily watch every film, but they'll see this category and they'll say, "Oh, War is Over. Let me watch that one. That's the one that I'm going to
Hmm.
watch and dedicate my time to." So
Hmm.
that'll get my vote. Even though it is like a preferential ballot and everybody can rank things and everybody can, you know, show love to every project that they if they choose to, but I think just because of the familiarity of the subject, I think
That's
War
a
is
good
Over going
point.
to walk away with the win. So this is going to be the one that I pick. Moving on, best international feature film. We have Il Capitano from Italy, Perfect Days from Japan, Society of the Snow from Spain, The Teacher's Lounge from Germany, and The Zone of Interest from the United Kingdom. Um, this is a strong category. Good slot of films this year. So this is Society of the
Yeah, these are
Snow's
bangers.
second nomination here. Glad to see it get represented here, even though it should have got a best VFX nom. But I'm gonna pick the Zone of Interest. I think it probably won't win anything else, and so this is the one to
Hmm.
win. The only other one I would have pegged for it to win would have been Best Sound, but I'm edging out to Oppenheimer as we talked about earlier. But I think that this is kind of a lockup for the Zone of Interest. I think it'll walk away with Best International Feature.
Yeah, it's hard not to like you see a movie and like for best picture and then you see it an international feature with no other competitors that's in the other 10 and you're like, yeah, I think it's going to win. But yeah, it has to be Zone of Interest. I will say, man, Society of the Snow, man, it's so good. And I love to see people go to bat for Society of the Snow. I've seen like just a lot of rallying behind Society of the Snow, like, whoa, more people need to watch this, blah 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 blah. And I agree, man. Society of the Snow is really good. Also, Perfect Days. Watch Perfect Days if you haven't watched Perfect Days, y'all. Perfect Days is also really good. But yeah, I'm also gonna go with the Zone of Interest. It really is a really good movie. And yeah, I think it's gonna win. Like you said, it's not gonna win anything else.
Totally. Moving on to best documentary feature film. In this category, we have Bobby Wine, The People's President, The Eternal Memory, Four Daughters, To Kill a Tiger, and 20 Days in Mariupol. Before we pick, I just want to say I'm still upset that still a Michael J. Fox movie was not represented here. That was an
Hmm.
extraordinary documentary that came out last year on Apple TV Plus about Michael J. Fox, you know, incredible actor, you know, leading the Back to the Future franchise, had one of the most promising careers, and it often spent a lot of its runtime talking about the conditions he's dealt with. It's just an incredible film. And also American Symphony did not get nominated here as well. I think a lot of people thought that it would, but
Hmm.
it did not get a nomination here, which for certain people that might be unfortunate. But this now is a category made up of these films. So what are you picking out of these five? What's going to be your prediction for best documentary?
I gotta go with 20 Days in Mariupol, man. It was like it was very informative. How about that? Like, and to be honest, I know that sounds very straightforward, but that's what a lot of these documentaries are supposed to do and made to do. And it's literally looking at the Russia's invasion of the Ukraine, which was very pertinent to some of the recent history that we've experienced in the world. And I just thought it was very well done. It was intriguing, uh, and it was important. Like I feel like I was watching something like, dang, did has more have people seen this? Like it feels like an important piece of work. So I'm going with 20 Days in Mariupol. The only other one I would say is To Kill a Tiger is also really good. If you haven't seen To Kill a Tiger, it's a fire, really good documentary as well. But I'm going 20 Days in Mariupol, man. I really liked it.
Yeah, I think that this is the heavy favorite. To be honest, just because of its timeliness. It's a really tough watch. It's really difficult to watch because it's dealing with stuff that is in the news a lot now, but when you see some of this footage, it's really a harrowing experience, I think, and it's just kind of resonating, I think, with a lot of people. But because of the timeliness, I think it's going to walk away as a heavy favorite and likely win. Moving on, best animated feature. Here we have The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Interesting conversation that's developed around here. We saw at the Golden Globes a couple of months ago. The Boy and the Heron won, but recently Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has been sort of rallying back and picking up some steam recently with some
Hmm.
wins across the board. And so those two, I think, are kind of the clear front runners in this particular category. You have Hayao Miyazaki, with potentially, his swan song, or at least, one of his later films, one of the last films that he'll probably make that's very reflective. Obviously, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was a sensation last year and was super popular, and of course, furthered that particular story within the Spider-Verse, into the Spider-Verse franchise. And so, really competitive, I think, between those two. Who are you walking away with as your prediction for best animated feature?
This one is hard, man. At first, I thought it was easy. At first, I was like, Born the Heron is going to take it. But when Spider Verse picked up, I think it was the PGA, and they won something else. Maybe it was like the Annie or something. I was like, oh my god, what is happening here? I was like, oh, we might have something a little bit more competitive on our hands. And I think that this is officially a very, very, it's between these two very competitively. I honestly don't know which way it's going to go. Boy in the Hair, as you said, might be a swan song for Hayao Miyazaki. It feels like a milestone in his career as he looks back on his life and all the movies he made. But also, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a better movie. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what are we doing here?
And you have a more diverse voting body as well with the
You
Academy, and,
do.
and and we're showing love to more international feature films. Boy and the Heron coming from Japan as well. That's also another lever that it can tug on. So yeah, it's tough. It's a
Man,
tough pick.
it really is a hard one. Shoot, I could say something on the show right now and it'd be changed by Sunday. I I am gonna again. I'm gonna go against what I had before, just because for the sake of it. I'm gonna say Spider Man takes it. I'm gonna say Spider Man takes it. I think I think more people have seen Spider Man in the Academy. Like I'm also thinking about that. Like the Academy, everybody in the Academy is like, yeah, we've definitely seen Spider Man. I don't know if everybody's technically seen The Boy in the Heron. So right now, I'm gonna go with Spider Man Across the Spider Verse, but would not be surprised if Boy in the Heron takes it.
Yeah, I ultimately landed on Across the Spider Verse because I thought long and hard about this one too, because it has become complicated over the past few weeks. I think ultimately what landed me on Across the Spider Verse, despite the Academy being more of an international sort of minded voting body at this particular day and age, I do think again the familiarity, the ability to have something that feels a little bit more accessible
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
Spider-Man for that large voting body, I think is going to give it the momentum that it needs to walk away with the win. Because The Boy and the Heron, while it's an incredible movie, it's a challenging film that everybody just might not jive with. I said this when we
Yeah.
reviewed the movie that Hayao Miyazaki, as incredible as he is one of one. For certain people, he can be an acquired taste. I don't think everybody's going to naturally just love his work. And
Hmm.
because The Boy and the Heron is so much of a reflection on his career, and there is so much of a narrative on how his previous films informed this one. That may potentially work against it, but if it were to win, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I wouldn't walk away totally shocked if The Boy and the Heron won. But I'm ultimately going to go and pick Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse as well in this category. Moving on, best original screenplay. Here we have Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives. Interestingly enough, this is May December's only Oscar nomination this evening. I think a lot of people thought that it would have gotten more recognition, but this is the only one. Maestro also, acknowledged here we're starting to see the holdovers, take more center stage in these above the line categories. Past Lives, another critical darling from last year, and of course Anatomy of a Fall, huge international film that I think a lot of people, widely regard as one of the best films of 2023. So I think out of this one, it feels pretty simple and easy that Anatomy of a Fall is going to win. I think Justine Triet and what she did with that movie, phenomenal. It's certainly one of the best written movies of last year, probably the best. It's either one or two. I think for me, in comparison to Oppenheimer, if I'm being honest, I think that's the movie that I think is quite possibly the best written. So I think that this is a case where it's like my favorite, and also likely the one that's going to win, maybe out of Anatomy of a Fall. So that's going to be my pick.
Man, I think that, let me see here. I really love these nominees, man. They're all really good. I like these a lot. These are all so fire. I like Anatomy of a Fall, bro. It has to be the one for me. It's like one of the best written screen. Like, it's so crazy to me the things that you have to do in Anatomy of a Fall. And I was thinking about the other thing I was going back and forth between was the holdovers in Past Lives, which I think I still really think Past Lives is like a perfect movie. But I think Anatomy of a Fall definitely has the best screenplay out of these. So I'm gonna go with Anatomy of a Fall as well. I think I'm with you for sure.
Yeah, and it also, it's not going to win Best Picture. It was not considered in Best International Feature.
We got to talk about it somewhere.
Yeah.
We got to talk about it somewhere. We can't not acknowledge it.
Yeah, I just feel like Justine Triet, she's going to get her due in this category. This is the one if you're going to do
Agreed.
it. Young filmmaker, very talented. So yeah. Moving on, Best Adapted Screenplay, we have American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. When nominations came out, we kind of had a conversation about Barbie and should it be adapted, should it be original? There's a whole discourse, that's been out there, but it's in one of them, so I don't know how upset people can be. It's an adapted at least, so it's represented here. But in comparison, also again to some very strong films here, Zone of Interest, which we've talked about, Poor Things, Oppenheimer, obviously the one to beat, and American Fiction, which we're kind of talking about for the first time here, written for the screen by Cora Jefferson, which at the BAFTAs, got a huge nudge once it won the Best Adapted Screenplay there, which is a bit of a shocker because the BAFTAs are not known for their ability to award black filmmakers or black voters. That's not something that they're necessarily known for, but they did go ahead and give that to American Fiction. So I think that's an interesting play. What's also interesting about both of these categories, original screenplay and adapted screenplay, typically at this time of the year, the WGAs would have happened. We can kind of look at those and say like, yeah, but they got delayed because of the writer's strike. They're not going to happen for like another month after the Academy Awards, which is
that's so weird,
very unusual. So we're kind of walking in somewhat blind. At least in past years, to these categories, which I actually kind of like. I hate the predictive nature of how easy it is to predict some of these things. So it's kind of exciting to not necessarily know for sure what's going to win. But yeah, all that out the way, what are you going to pick as your prediction out of Best Adapted Screenplay?
It really is hard to ignore the momentum that American Fiction has. It's just, it has been cleaning up, man. That's definitely my prediction. Something I did want to add to that though is, before that happened, I thought that when Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, or when Greta Gerwig didn't get the director nomination, that they were like, okay, we're going to give her at least the screenplay. But now I definitely I don't know. I feel like all that has shifted, and now I feel like it's going to American Fiction for sure. Cora Jefferson, man, I think is going to walk away with an Oscar on this night. We're going to be able to root for somebody black, so I think it's going to go there.
Yeah, I actually, before the BAFTAs, which, to be clear, I think less and less the BAFTAs are any really indicator of the Oscar. They're just, things are just so different with the BAFTAs. I mean, they just operate very differently. But that being said, like, my heavy favorite was Oppenheimer. No doubt about it. I think I've often said that this is Chris Nolan's best script, of his entire career.
For sure.
And I do personally think it's the best in this category. It's my favorite. But I do think, once again, I think, similar to some of these other categories, we've just often seen over past years, the love is typically spread around a little bit more. The last film that won double-digit Academy Awards was Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. That was over 20 years ago. Never has a film won more than 9 awards in one single year since that film.
Wow.
And Oppenheimer could stand a good chance to do that this year. It's up for 13. It could potentially win maybe 10, 11, we'll see how things go as the night, plays out. But I don't think that this is one of them at this particular point. I think American Fiction will get it, so I'm picking that one as well, which will be great to see for Cord Jefferson and what that might mean for his career, and also a very interesting script that had to adapt some challenging material to a very digestible, yet still challenging movie that managed to still be entertaining amidst all of it. So that's going to be my pick as well. Let's move on. Best Actress in a Supporting Role. Here we have Emily Blunt from Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple, America Ferrera for Barbie, Jodie Foster for Nyad, and Davine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. Picking Davine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. This is the easiest pick of
Yeah,
the night.
of the whole night, it's the easiest one.
She's literally not lost. Like in any show, she's
Yeah,
not
undefeated.
lost. It's if you had money to bet, I mean, you would have to place a lot of money on this bet because the odds are just ridiculous. The betting odds are just ridiculously in her favor. So not really much of a conversation there. Similar in the best actor in a supporting role conversation as well, I think. Here we have Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. Who's your pick, and do you have anything to add? I think in the context of the conversation, either in best actress in a supporting role or even best actor.
No, man. I think it's really, again, this is the easiest set that we have the whole night. It's Robert Downey Jr. and his Divine Joy Randolph, man. They've just been pretty undefeated. And so yeah, I'm excited to hear their speeches. I've already been thinking about what speeches they're gonna give. I ain't even thinking about if they're gonna win it or not. I'm already there. I'm already envisioning them on the stage as we speak. So yeah, man, I'm very excited to see Divine Joy Randolph. Again, another moment of black excellence from a black woman is going to be great to see her on the biggest stage, because everything else has kind of been like the lead up to this, and now it's like, yes, she did it. So I'm really excited for her to get that award. And then Robert Downey Jr., man, what a tour he's been on. It's funny because like every time I see him, I feel like I love him more and more, and which is crazy because he was already like one of my favorite people, and so now this dude, he's gonna walk away with it for sure. And yeah, I think like you said, it's the easiest portion of the night to me is those two awards.
So moving on to Best Actress in a Leading Role, we have Annette Bening for Nyad, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. So as we get into these actress races, for Best Actress in particular, it's interesting because the two front runners that have emerged are Lily Gladstone for Killers and Emma Stone for Poor Things. Now, Emma Stone has already won before. She won for La La Land a few years ago. But they both won awards at the Golden Globes because they have separate categories, drama and comedy. And they both won. Also, Emma Stone just picked up the BAFTA in a category that Lily Gladstone wasn't even considered for, which is interesting. So, I mean, I don't know if that disqualifies the BAFTAs from any conversation, or what that really, sort of tells about this. But we also just saw Lily Gladstone at the SAG Awards recently pick up the award as well. And so on the surface, it feels like it's an easy choice, but I think at the same time, it's still competitive. I don't think that this is a walk away home run prediction in this particular case. I think the Academy has never really been better, than it is right now with diversity, driven picks, having more representation in terms of who wins. Obviously, Lily Gladstone, if she wins, will be the first Native American actress to win in this category. She's one of only 4 Indigenous people in the history of the Academy Awards to be nominated. Emma Stone, powerhouse in Hollywood, has the pedigree, has the resume. So there's a lot there to talk about. We've also seen, people like Leonardo DiCaprio throw himself in support of Lily Gladstone. He pretty much, I think, in doing that, he kind of eliminated himself from Best Actor because he put so much support towards Lily Gladstone. Which he probably doesn't care. He doesn't need another Oscar. He's well made, and I think he kind of did the right thing there. But all of that said, man, who are you picking in this category? Best Actress in a Leading Role.
I think I'm gonna settle on Lily Gladstone, man. I really do. It's not only I think excited, or an exciting time to make history with what she's done. It's also the movie that she was doing this in. A very important film versus like it's not like we're looking at Poor Things. It was like, yeah, that was we needed that movie for history. You know what I mean? Like Killers of the Flower Moon, I think actually feels like it means something to by way of a snapshot of history in drama. And Lily Gladstone helped do such a good job in that movie. Man, I'm gonna go with Lily Gladstone here again. If it's Emma, who it was funny, I had Emma before. I was like, I don't think Emma's going to lose this, but I think Lily's going to take it. And yeah, I think they're going to give it to her at the end of the night. I do.
Yeah, I'm picking Lily Gladstone as well. Although I think that this category it's close. It's closer than people may
It is
think.
close.
Again, I think it's kind of similar to last year. Michelle Yeoh and Kate Blanchett. These were close races. These weren't walk away, sort of definitive wins, like we're seeing in the supporting actors and actor categories. But I will pick Lily Gladstone as well because there is an opportunity to make history. I think that narrative is strong and people support her. She's obviously held herself in great presence and poise. She's campaigned. She's done all the right things to be in this limelight right now. And I think that this is really the only award that Killers of the Flower Moon is going to win all night.
That's
It's not on deck
true.
to win anything else. And so if we want to acknowledge that film in any way with an Oscar, it kind of has to be this one, and I think it will be. So I'm picking her as well. Best actor, we have Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. Um, by the way, just want to mention this is a really impressive category. First of all, two black men here: Coleman Domingo, Jeffrey Wright. Paul
Yeah.
Giamatti, just a workhorse in Hollywood, has delivered so many reliable performances. Bradley Cooper, super talented writer, director, actor in his own right. Cillian Murphy, of course, has been at this for 20 plus years, finally getting a moment with Oppenheimer. Great diversity across the board, really in all these acting categories. I'm really, really impressed by this. But if I'm picking, obviously, I think at this point, it feels closely solidified to go in the camp of Cillian Murphy. I
Hmm.
think he's going to walk away with it. I really, really love Paul Giamatti, man. I really want him to win. Honestly, deep down, if he won, that would make me more happy. I love Cillian Murphy, and I love what he did in Oppenheimer, and I think he is the best actor of the year. Like, honestly, in myself, like, nobody really did what he did with that film. In these other performances that are being acknowledged. But man, I really want Paul Giamatti to get acknowledged in that way. So I would be happy if it happened. But just for prediction's sake, I'm going to go with Cillian Murphy.
Yeah. I also have like this weird thing where it's like, Paul Giamatti is older. Give it to him because Killian can get it, in more years than Paul Giamatti can get it. But they both have a ton of life ahead of them, so any one of them can really be back here very soon if they really if they really do the work. But I think the energy is behind Killian Murphy. I think I agree. I really like The Holdovers as a movie. And I really like what Paul Giamatti was doing in that movie too, man. It really is like just a fun, heartfelt film that I feel like I hadn't gotten one of those before. It's actually like, I don't know if favorite genre is the way, but that feeling that movie gives me is like, damn, where has that been? Like, I feel like I've been missing the feeling that movie gives me, and Paul Giamatti is part of that. So part of me is like, damn, I wanted to go to Paul Giamatti. But I think it's Cillian Murphy. I think what you said was pretty true, of like Cillian Murphy was the best actor of the year. Like, if you go like performance, if you like grade on a rubric, if we were in like acting school and like all of these people were like, you know what I'm saying? They were going for like who has the highest score at the end of their performance. I think Cillian Murphy really did just knock it out of the park, bro. Like he is also the only person here who is the titular character. Like, he is literally Oppenheimer, and he has so much work that he had to do in that movie. And so yeah, I think the energy is behind Cillian Murphy, and I think overall he'll walk away with it at the end of the night.
Absolutely. Moving on to Best Director, we have Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, and Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. Shit. Wow. First of all,
Wow,
some incredible fucking
bangers.
filmmakers. I just want to say that, as clear as day as this category is, that does not take away from just the talent in this category. It's ridiculous. It's really high times. I know people are upset about Greta Gerwig. I get it. I
Hmm.
understand, but it's competitive, y'all. It's really competitive. It's only 5 spots. Like, let's just be honest about it. It's only 5 spots. Somebody gotta visit. And there are no snubs technically. Like, nobody's downvoting anybody. You know, it's just like all preferential at
Yeah.
the end of the day. That's just kind of how the nature of the system works. But be that as it may, there's no way Christopher Nolan is losing this fucking category.
No
Like, it's
way.
just no way.
There's no way.
Yeah, there's literally no chance. I mean, I would legitimately be shocked if anything else happened because, I mean, come on. Chris Nolan's walking away best director. He deserves it. At the end of the day, he really deserves it. This is a crowning achievement for his career. He helped catapult a movie about white men in rooms talking about quantum physics to $1 billion blockbuster. Who else could do that but Chris Nolan? Nobody, practically.
Yeah.
I think he is the winner of 2023. I said it when we talked about biggest winners and losers of the year. Like, that man won the year, and came back roaring and brought people back to the movie theaters, much like what we just talked about with Denis Villeneuve. Chris Nolan did that almost a year ago, this past summer, with the Barbenheimer phenomenon, and of course his own film and his own achievement there. So I think he's the clear front runner and the clear winner here.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing else but to agree there. What's really interesting about everybody else is, like, these are some really small scale movies compared to what Oppenheimer. I think it's funny. I think Oppenheimer is like the tall kid over there, and everybody else is like also really good. They're just like shorter.
Well, not Killers. Killers is a massive movie too.
It is.
It costs like
like
$200 million.
Not in that way. Not in that way. Not in that one. But like, it takes place like in a town. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. You know, it's like small, and I don't know if scope is the word either. But it's like, I don't know. Oppenheimer just feels like this big thing. Like, it's about the atomic bomb.
It's a big. I mean, in comparison to Killers, it is a more consequential idea. The atomic bomb has larger implications than what happened, in Oklahoma in the 30s. They both do take place over the course of like many years. Like, Killers is also like a 10-year story. I think Oppenheimer's like like a 30-year story. They're tackling big subjects for sure.
No, they are for sure. But yeah, man, Christopher Nolan just. It's like, dang, have you seen Oppenheimer? And do you believe Oppenheimer would lose? That's what I would ask everybody who's against Oppenheimer. Like, okay, but have you watched the movie? I think, and if because there's no way you're betting against it. So yeah, bro, it's Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer, man. And I think it's a shoe-in.
Speaking of shoe-in, Best Picture, we have American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. We know a couple of years ago they changed the rule where it used to be up to 10 films could be nominated. Then they recently just made it to be where, oh no, it will be 10 films every single time out, which I think is the better way to go. Gets more love to more films. This is also like where a lot of the whole preferential ballot comes into play. It was really based on the Best Picture model where, people go through and rank their picks, and then they have this whole math system. There's a whole video on YouTube that breaks it down and explains it. It's actually kind of interesting to see because, again, nobody downvotes anything, but it allows people to have a chance to acknowledge more films than they would have had to in the past. Like, you're not just picking one thing, you're ranking things. And then, just based on the math, that's how they determine the winner. I think that this is going to be one of the rare cases. We won't ever know this. I can't verify this, but this will be one of the rare cases where I believe that on the first round of their Academy math, of their ballot math that they do of the tabulation, they're going to have the winner. They won't have to do multiple rounds. They won't have to go back and do any process of elimination like they might have to do in closer races. A film just needs 50% of the vote in order to be considered Best Picture. I think Oppenheimer's going to get that 50% on the first try. Again, we'll never know that. That's just like a bold prediction that means nothing, but that's just what I'm going to throw out there. I think Oppenheimer's clearly, going to be the Best Picture here in this category.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really see how this could go any other way. If it's not Oppenheimer,
yeah, who's second? Who's the second most likely? If we just hypothetically put that out there.
Oh, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. I want to say, I don't know. See, that's hard too. I think it's between Poor Things and Zone of Interest. As like 2 and 3 potentially.
Poor Things would be my 2. I think that's the set. Like,
Poor Things would be your 2. Yeah, that's my favorite too, for sure.
Yeah, if it stood a chance, it would be that one.
It would be that one.
Who's the least likely? The 10. if we're power
Maestro.
ranking, it's
Maestro is not even close.
yeah, it's not happening. It's not happening for
It's
Maestro.
like Maestro, and it's not even close. That's like dead last. Like it's like way out there. It's not happening for Maestro, man. What would be crazy? It's like, oh yeah, we didn't nominate Greta Gerwig, but she won. We'd be like, what the heck just happened?
Talk about a curveball.
Talk about a curve ball. But yeah, I think Maestro is definitely dead last.
So as it stands, we have all the same picks in all but two categories, which I don't think has ever happened. I think we've been a little bit more divided in previous years, but the two categories that we're different on are best documentary shorts and the best animated short. So just those two categories where we're different, but everything else is the same. So that could be either a great thing because we might just get everything damn near right, or we're both going to have some massive L's, or maybe it speaks to the predictive nature. But you said it at the top. I think that this is one of the easiest years to predict in recent memory. Last year, like, we knew everything everywhere all at once was going to be a big moment, but I don't know if we realized how big of a moment it was going to be. I walked away with 7 Academy Awards. That was just like ridiculous. First science fiction film to win Best Picture. It just went crazy. But last year, Oppenheimer, it checks all the boxes for a film that was huge and massive and widely seen, but also like of historical importance and context, and well acted and phenomenal cast and prestigious director. I mean, it's literally made for this, And so again, I think the big question is how many it wins, and not whether or not it'll win. It'll of course win. So I think if we're looking at it here, I don't know the number off top. Look, let's see: Best Picture, Best Director, that's 2. Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor. What else? Best cinematography, best original score, best film editing, best sound. So we're saying basically Oppenheimer's going to win 8 Academy Awards, which is nuts. It's crazy. Last year,
pretty nuts.
Yeah, last year Everything Everywhere All at Once won 7. The year before, Dune Part 2 won 6. But Dune Part 2 was all below the line stuff. It didn't win any above the line stuff. So Oppenheimer could win, it's likely going to win acting awards this year. So 8 Academy Awards, if it walks away with that or more, I mean, wow, what a showing. But we will certainly see this coming Sunday. So we will be tuning into the Academy Awards to see all of the big winners. And of course, we will be back next week to review and recap everything that happens at the 96th Academy Awards.